a strategy of counterbalancing. I don't think that is the case. I think India, there is a rise of India. Okay, I still argue, in the initial stages of a rise of India, but the rise of India may happen at a different speed, in a different dynamic, in a different nature. But I think 30, 40, 50 years from now, people will look back and say, okay, these guys also did something phenomenal in their rise. So I wouldn't reduce, ourselves to that. In terms of, what China does as a historical proposition, I don't think it's just in the Chinese history. I mean, I think it's in fact, an example which is much more quoted is that of Germany. That, could Germany, if you were to ask a hypothetical historical question, could Germany have Wilhelmine Germany handle the First World War very differently? That you actually had what was the strongest power of its times, which went and united a whole lot of other countries by their behavior. So there are examples. There are also examples of countries who have been very successful in managing the rise. The United States is one. The beauty of history is you pick the examples you want to do. So eventually political science determines which part of history you like. So I would be a little cautious on that score.
Very rarely do you have, as Foreign Affairs Minister, a practitioner with whom you can have a deep conversation about Chinese military text or the Warring Kingdoms or even German military history. And that is just fantastic, and that's really good for all of us as Indians to have, whether we agree or disagree with some of what you did, but to have someone as accomplished as you at the wheel of India's foreign affairs. This is the first time you've come in real life to an India Today conclave. You've shared some really sharp insights with what's going on in your mind and how you're calibrating India's foreign policy. And we deeply appreciate you having taken our time. Can we have a very warm round of applause for India's Foreign Affairs Minister, Dr. Subramaniam Jaishankar. It's been an absolute privilege and a pleasure listening to you over the last 45 minutes. Thank you, sir. India has always had to navigate a very complex neighborhood. But rarely before in time has our country had to face so many simultaneous global headwinds. From the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan to the PLA's military build-up along the line of actual control, the geostrategic risks to India are clear and present. The man responsible for charting the course of India's foreign affairs through these turbulent waters is a long-time practitioner in the fine art of diplomacy, considered by many in the foreign services as the finest of his generation. Dr. Jaishankar now has that rare opportunity to shape policy in his area of professional expertise. It's that sweet spot that lakhs of professionals dream about, but only the chosen few get to practice. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming, for his conclave debut in New Delhi, the External Affairs Minister of India, Dr. Subramaniam Jaishankar. Can we have a warm round of applause, please? Joining me for this interaction are India Today's Foreign Affairs Editor, Geeta Mohan, and Executive Editor of India Today Television, Shiva Arora. Dr. Jaishankar, welcome. Let me start by asking you about your reading of the current situation in Afghanistan. There have been lots of reports about the Baradar faction and the Haqqani faction being at loggerheads. How are you working towards recalibrating India's relationship with the new Afghanistan in light of the reality of the Taliban takeover in Kabul? Dr. Jaishankar.
Yes. First of all, thank you, Rahul. It's good to be with all of you today. Look, the situation in Afghanistan is still unfolding. There is still a lot of lack of clarity. I mean, obviously, some of the more visible changes are apparent. So you have to take your positions, make your decisions on the basis of what you have. Now, the general sense in the international community is that there are some basic expectations which the world has of Afghanistan. The most basic of them is actually the fact that Afghan soil will not be used for terrorism against other countries. There are also expectations about the nature of the government, that it would be inclusive in some form. There's a view about what are considered governance standards in this day and age. Question of how you deal with minorities, with women, with children, how you deal with people who want to leave your, go out of your country or come into your country. I mean, legitimate moment. So I think these are all live issues, and we are obviously quite involved in shaping the thinking of the international community on that. Partly because we also happen to be at this time a UN Security Council member. Many of these debates are taking place there. Some of them are taking place in the G20 format. We had a foreign ministers meeting of the G20. So I think it's evolving. We are making it up, obviously responding to the situation as you go along. But beyond that, it's hard to take a very definitive position because the situation on the ground doesn't allow for it.
Just a question on the engagement. We know that when the Taliban took over Kabul, there was the first engagement between our ambassador in Doha, Deepak Mittal, and Stanik Zai. And since then, we've not really seen real engagement. So are we going to adopt a wait-and-watch policy? Because it seems like the Haqqanis have set the tone and tenor when it comes to ties with India, with the Indian administration. Anas Haqqani's tweet, in many ways than one, really sets the tone over there when he speaks of Somnath Temple taking pride in smashing the idol of Somnath.
Look, we are in different businesses, okay? You are in the news business, I'm in the diplomacy business. By nature, I would be more empirical, would be more, I'd be more careful about my judgments. I mean, by the nature of our business, okay, as opposed to yours. I am not sure I would completely agree with some of the things you say. If this person has taken charge, and I mean, fine. I mean, people may take positions, people may tweet. We can speculate. That is all right. But I think when it comes to policy making, I would do kind of double, triple, quadruple diligence, be very, very deliberative about my judgments. I have, there's no great compulsion on me to take very sharp, definitive positions and be public about it. So there could be things happening which, I may not be able to speak about, but at the moment, as I said, as you said actually, our primary contact has been in Doha, and that's where it is.
Minister Jaishankar, from the Haqqanis that Geeta was talking about, I'd like to draw your attention now to Pakistan. With everything that's happened in Afghanistan, and like you said, many things are still in movement and in flux right now, how much more complicated has it made our navigation of the situation with Pakistan? Because the perception is that the ISI has won with everything that's happened in Pakistan, and therefore the simplistic way it's been looked at is that this has been a strategic setback for India. Vis-a-vis Pakistan, how are you navigating that?
So, again, I would take the same situation and say I have to operate out of a given a set of assumptions. I can't say I wish it hadn't been like this, or the Americans had stayed on, or they'd have gone out a different way. They've done what they've done. I have to live with it and deal with it accordingly. If you ask me, say, October 8th, is my security situation more complicated than it was on August 8th? Of course it is. But you yourself would agree with me that sometimes we all tend to make very sweeping statements or judgments or assessments. I think the picture is a little more complex, more granular.